So I may well be the worst PhD student that Trinity College Dublin has ever had in its 400-year plus history. Um, my sincere thanks go to my PhD supervisors, who are evidently very patient individuals. When it comes to this talk, I think it's important to say that you may leave with more questions than answers, and that's absolutely fine. And in fact, it's better than fine. It's great. That's what I want. And that's what we need when it comes to ecosystems. So curiosity is an extremely powerful thing. When it comes to research, really what people ask and supervisors ask and lecturers ask is, like, what are you interested in? What are you curious about? What are you passionate about? And for me, it was three things, or is three things. So 1, entrepreneurs, 2, ecosystems, and 3, blockchain technology. Entrepreneurs, people who have ideas, who create projects, create businesses, create initiatives. Ecosystems are really, whether it be in the business sense or in nature or in ecology, are actors, are players that play different roles that form something which is bigger than their individual parts. And from an entrepreneurial ecosystem perspective, it's really all about resilience. Ecosystems really exemplify that they evolve, that they adapt over time, that they don't die, they continue to move forward. And then blockchain technology, really it is just a database technology. It has unique attributes. One, that anything that you store in a blockchain is very hard to amend, edit, or alter. Number 2, they're extremely transparent. The data that is visible to everybody, from the first transaction to the transaction that took place just right now. And then thirdly, there are things called smart contracts. And smart contracts are simply self-executing contracts when certain criteria are met. If this event happens, trigger this payment. So for me, it was these things that I guess got me thinking. But more importantly, I guess what was kind of frying my noodle, or what they say, a complete brain wedgie, was really about, how do ecosystems form? How do they come about? How does something come from nothing? In a barren desert, how does something grow? Where does the talent come from? Where does the skills come from? Where do the knowledge come from? Where do all the people come from that work within that ecosystem? So this got me thinking long and hard about that question. Where do ecosystems come from? And so it's natural as humans that we start to think about, well, okay, when it comes to entrepreneurial ecosystems, business ecosystems, and blockchain ecosystems, where else do they exist? Is there something that we can copy, that we can look at, that we can imitate? And naturally, when we think about entrepreneurial ecosystems, we might think of California, we might think of Silicon Valley. And that's natural, that's what we do as humans. We think about, well, okay, what's the shortcut? What's the mental shortcut? With Silicon Valley, it has very unique attributes. It has access to funding, it has lots of talent, and it has a deep-rooted entrepreneurial mindset, right? That goes all the way back to the gold rush. But when it comes to looking at ecosystems and forming new ones anywhere in your community, in your city, in your country, what is absolutely critical is to understand that copying and pasting simply doesn't work, and research proves that. If it was that easy, there'd be lots of Silicon Valleys all over the world. It'd just be Control-C, Control-V. So what you gotta think about is, for your city, your community, and your country, what attributes, what characteristics, what strengths do you have? And how do you double and triple down on those? And then that's where we start getting into where the secret and magic sauce is coming from. So let's look at an example. Let's look at a great example. I'm terribly biased. Let's look at Ireland, okay? Let's look at Ireland's entrepreneurial ecosystem. And more specifically, let's look at Ireland's blockchain entrepreneurial ecosystem. In many ways, it's the envy of the world. Why? Because we have all the ingredients when it comes to entrepreneurial ecosystems and blockchain entrepreneurial ecosystems. We have a very credible regulator. We have great talent in universities like this. We have fintechs like Stripe. We have big banks like JP Morgan and HSBC. We have access to funding. We have great talent, and so on. We have all of the various ingredients. So therefore, why isn't it just as simple that we can spin up any form of ecosystem, whether it's to do with blockchain, AI, quantum computing, robotics, whatever? It's just not that simple, unfortunately. So Based on the research that I've done, and really leaning on the shoulders of giants, there are 4 key things that have come about that I've learned that I want to impart. But number 1 is really an important piece of the puzzle. So 1 is that there has to be risk by the entrepreneurs to choose a new emerging technology, to venture in, to create new products, to create new businesses, new ventures, but also by governments to make a bet that they're saying, you know what, we're going to bet on quantum over the next 5 or 10 years, and this is going to be something we really focus on and we're going to become world leaders in. Not dabble, commit. Number 2, we're going to plan. Number 3, we're going to execute and have accountability that goes with that. And then number 4, and this is the softer side of things, which normally gets overlooked. I myself am very guilty of this. But it's normally the softer side of things, the intangible things, which are the hardest to imitate and also add the most value. And the 4th piece is the connective tissue. So if we bring it back to that ecological ecosystem analogy I gave earlier, when it comes to talk about nature and bringing everything together, all those ingredients coming together, you have, I guess, leaves, you have plants and all that kind of good stuff. But what brings it together? You start looking at insects, you start looking at bees, you start looking at how pollen moves from one plant to another via this connective tissue. It's the connective tissue or the coordinating layer between all of the component parts of an ecosystem that creates the ecosystem, that makes it work. Otherwise, they're all just siloed individual parts. And with emerging technologies, you begin to get adoption by startups, you begin to get adoption by companies, and then that brings about legitimacy. And then the legitimacy trumps and surpasses the hype of all of these new technologies that we talk about. But what's really important is to think about how ultimately blockchains are interconnected databases, and ecosystems are interconnected ways that bring players and actors together. And so what is absolutely essential to think about entrepreneurial ecosystems, and especially around creating blockchain entrepreneurial ecosystems, is that it is imperative for individuals, for companies to come together, to take risk, to make a plan, to execute, to have that coordinating layer. It is essential. Thank you.